Whenever there's an issue where someone's data gets passed to someone who the rules of the system shouldn't have allowed it, that's rightfully a big issue and deserves to be a big uproar. Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook's chief executive, said in an interview. David Paul Morris, Bloomberg. For much of the past week, Facebook has been embroiled in a controversy involving Cambridge Analytica, a political consulting firm with ties to Donald J. Trump's 2016 presidential campaign, and how the firm improperly obtained and exploited personal data from 50 million Facebook users. On Wednesday, following widespread questions about his whereabouts, Mark Zuckerberg, the chief executive of Facebook, spoke with two New York Times reporters, Shira Frenkel and Kevin Roose, about the controversy and the steps he was taking to make the social network less prone to abuse. Below is a transcript of the conversation, edited for length and clarity. Shira Frenkel, did it come as a surprise to you, the user response to the news that Cambridge Analytica had accessed this trove of data? Mark Zuckerberg, privacy issues have always been incredibly important to people. One of our biggest responsibilities is to protect data. If you think about what our services are, at their most basic level, you put some content into a service, whether it's a photo or a video or a text message, whether it's Facebook or WhatsApp or Instagram, and you're trusting that that content is going to be shared with the people you want to share it with. Whenever there's an issue where someone's data gets passed to someone who the rules of the system shouldn't have allowed it to, that's rightfully a big issue and deserves to be a big uproar. Frenkel, it took quite a few days for your response to come out. Is that because you were weighing these 3 action points that you noted in your post? Zuckerberg, the first thing is, I really wanted to make sure we had a full and accurate understanding of everything that happened. I know that there was a lot of pressure to speak sooner, but my assessment was that it was more important that what we said was fully accurate. The second thing is, the most important thing is that we fix this system so that issues like this don't happen again. It's not like there aren't going to be other different kind of things we'll also have to fix. But when there's a certain problem, we have a responsibility to at least make sure we resolve that problem. So the actions here that we're going to do involve first, dramatically reducing the amount of data that developers have access to, so that apps and developers can't do what Kogan did here. Most important actions there we actually took 3 or 4 years ago, in 2014. But when we examined the systems this week, there were certainly other things we felt we should lock down, too. So we're going ahead and doing that. Even if you solve the problem going forward, there's still this issue of, are there other Cambridge Analyticas out there, or other Kogans who, when the platform worked a certain way in the past, were there apps which could have gotten access to more information, and potentially sold it without us knowing, or done something that violated people's trust? We also need to make sure we get that under control. That's why we spent a lot of time figuring out, okay, here's what it's going to take to do a full investigation of every app that got access to a large amount of information before we changed the platform policies to dramatically reduce the data access that developers had. For any app that we uncover that has any suspicious activity, we're going to go do a full forensic audit, and make sure we have the capacity to do that, to make sure that other developers aren't doing what Kogan did here. The third thing is, it's really important that people know what apps they've authorized. A lot of people have been on Facebook now for 5 or 10 years, and sometimes you signed into an app a long time ago and you may have forgotten about that. So one of the steps we're taking is making it so apps can no longer access data after you haven't used them for 3 months. But it's also just really important to put in front of people a tool of, here are all the apps you've connected to and authorized, here's an easy way to deauthorize them, to revoke their permission to get access to your activity. Kevin Roose, is Facebook planning to notify the 50 million users whose data was shared with Cambridge Analytica? Zuckerberg, yes. We're going to tell anyone whose data may have been shared. Now, there's a question of whether we have the exact record in our systems today of who your friends were on that day when there was access 3.5 or 4 years ago, so we're going to be conservative on that and try to tell anyone whose data may have been affected, even if we don't know for certain that they were. It's likely that we'll build a tool like we did with the Russian misinformation investigation, that anyone can go to it and see if their data was affected by this. Roose, do you have a preliminary estimate of how many apps you'll be investigating? Zuckerberg, it will be in the thousands. Frenkel, were those app developers notified that you'll be investigating this yet? Zuckerberg, just when I posted. And we'll be reaching out in the near term. Frenkel, are you going to be hiring people to help conduct those investigations? Zuckerberg: yes, I would imagine we're going to have to grow the team to work on this. Bruce: you mentioned a contract that developers will have to sign in order to ask anyone for access to broader profile information. What will be the terms of that contract, and what will be the penalties for violating it? Zuckerberg: so, the important thing there is that it's a high-touch process.